Welcome to Houston Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Shannon, and every week we bring you news and information you can use on your next real estate transaction. However, I know we've had a few weeks where we've been throwing some different things at you. We interviewed all of the Houston mayoral candidates because we want you to be well informed when you make those decisions going to the primaries. And we also have been talking with all the local superintendents getting ready for the new school year, helping to make sure that those new families feel welcome into those districts and putting out information about the school district. So I know we've had a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily real estate, but this segment or this show today is all about real estate. And it's very important because it affects you and your real estate transactions starting in October. Some big changes are coming. So we want to talk to you about those. Make sure that you have lots of information about it. There have been a lot of changes going on because of the big mortgage crisis that happened years ago. A lot of things have been in the works for years, trying to make sure that consumers are more protected when they get loans, that they know what they're getting, they know what they're signing, and they're ready to close on a home. So we're going to be talking about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and things that are happening that are going to change starting October of this year. So we've got a lot to talk to you about. I've got Jobe Danganan. He is the Chief Legal Officer at Sindeo, and they are a modern mortgage marketplace. And he's calling in from San Francisco. He's actually Skyping in, and he's got some great information for you. He worked for the CFPB, or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, so he's got some great insight into the Bureau for us, and now he works with a mortgage company. And he served as an enforcement attorney advisor, so we're really excited to have him on the show to explain some of the issues going on that's really got lenders, title companies, real estate companies all really worried about the big fines that the CFPB is going to be starting to enforce after October, some of which they've already been enforcing, but there'll be even more after October. So we're going to talk to him about that and about these changes that are coming our way. He's got lots of great information for us. So we are going to hear from him today, and it's going to be a good show, really preparing you, because starting October, I think the market's going to change a little bit. So welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you, Shannon?
I'm good. I know the weather's better out there than it is here today in Houston. But I'm glad you're Skyping in. I know we've got a lot to talk about, so we're glad to have you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, let me share with you something from the CFPBfacts.com, where you can go and get some information. There are some people who are strongly against what the CFPB is doing, and then there are some people who are strongly for what the CFPB is doing, and then there are a lot of people caught in the middle who are really worried about what's going to happen October 3rd. So let me just share one side of this with you. It says that the CFPB, that's the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, was created primarily to protect consumers and facilitate access to credit. But many analysts argue that the CFPB's regulations of the financial industry are really causing consumers to have problems getting access to credit. And that the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform released a report stating that the CFPB's unnecessarily aggressive processes actually prevent the Bureau from adequately considering how its enforcement and regulatory actions could restrict access to and increase the cost of credit. And I know there are some companies worried about this as well because of the fines being levied for things that could be done inaccurately and complaints lodged by consumers. So I'm going to let you start there.
Sure, yeah. Those are, fair observations. There's a lot of misunderstanding, but there's a lot of fear in the industry about the new rules that have been coming out. Mm-hmm. The big one, of course, is the know before you owe disclosures, or TRID, the TILA Rest by Integrated Disclosure, which will create a sea change in how disclosures are being given out to consumers. Mm-hmm. So that will replace the GFE, the HUD-1s, and the TILs with a new set of disclosures at the beginning of the mortgage process, which will be called the loan estimate, or the LE, and the closing disclosure, which is called the CD. And the whole point of that is to inform and empower and make the mortgage process really transparent for the consumer. And as soon as the CFPB was created, it actually went all across the country and did studies, surveys among different consumers, compared the old forms, the old GFE, the old HUD ones with the new ones, and found up to a 98% improvement in understanding the loan terms, the APR, the various costs of the mortgage transaction.
I've taken several classes on this, just wrapping my head around it to be able to train my agents, on all of these changes that are coming. And I like all the new forms. I like all the new disclosures. I like the information that consumers are getting. And I like that our Texas Real Estate Commission has tried to work to create forms to help assist with this as well. For example, having a form allowing realtors to be able to see the kind of what they're calling the new HUD 1 statement, being able to get that information. So I like how everyone's working to really have great information for consumers on the loan process. I think that there's a lot of change going on in the industry for title companies, lenders, and real estate companies. Mostly for title companies, I think, though, it's cost them a lot of money to get new systems and processes in place, and they're having to juggle with the mortgage companies to figure out who's going to do what starting October 3rd.
Yes, that's exactly right. It is a sea change. As with any change, there's always a lot of buildup and a lot of resistance and a lot of fear. But once, I think, a year from now, everyone will be happier. The title companies will be happier, the lenders will be happier, and certainly the consumers will be happier because they're now more informed about the mortgage transaction. So the TRID has two main purposes. It's to create transparency into the mortgage process. As you mentioned before, a mortgage is the biggest financial transaction that a consumer will get into their lives. Right. So the CFPB wants to create transparency. They want to lay out all the fees that go into the mortgage process. No surprise fees at the end. They want the consumer to know what a title insurance is, what an appraisal fee is, what a credit report fee is. And another point, besides transparency, the other goal of TRID is to encourage shopping between different lenders. So a regular consumer,
to make them easy to compare.
Exactly.
So you have comparable material, because right now one can say, well, I'm getting a lower interest rate over here, higher interest rate over there, so I'm going to go with the lower interest rate when there may be a lot of fees that they don't know about. So it makes it easier to compare apples to apples, right?
Exactly right, Shannon. So the loan estimate form, the LE, it actually doesn't say APR, because APR could be manipulated.
It's confusing.
Like lenders could put different fees, so it's really not apples to apples. So what the CFPB said is we're going to require all lenders to put out the interest rate, the bare interest rate up front, and also at the bottom to put out all the closing costs. And the point of that is so that a consumer can go from one lender, see the APR, see the interest rate, see the closing costs, basically the money they have to bring to the closing table, see how much they have to pay each month, and then go to another lender, see their interest rate, see the closing costs, see how much they have to pay each month, and compare, and maybe do that with 3 lenders. So what we're doing at Sindeo is that we're shopping between 40 to 50 lenders to make sure that we're giving the consumer a choice as to the best interest rate, the best service, and basically the best loan for that specific consumer.
Yeah, because there are a lot of different types of loans out there, and there are some loans that don't fall under the CFPB. Only certain types of loans are going to fall under these new guidelines. So, for example, the reverse mortgage won't fall under this. Loan for a mobile home won't fall under this. The HELOCs, that's right. And also, if I'm doing like a seller financing for someone, I don't have to use this unless I do like 5 or more of those a year, right? So
once you become a lender, right?
So my next question is, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, it's a little misleading to me because it sounds like they protect all consumers, and they really don't. They're really concerned with the consumers who are getting certain types of loans. So what would you say to that?
So their jurisdiction is over consumer financial products. So basically, there has to be credit involved. There has to be credit transactions. So an all-cash transaction does not involve a lender. There's no credit involved. Right? It's just a consumer paying all cash. So
those types of transactions won't change.
Exactly. What the CFPB regulates and has jurisdiction over are lenders, those who create financial products, those who create credit to consumers in order to protect consumers from unnecessarily high fees, from gotcha, right before the crisis, this, like balloon payments, interest-only payments, essentially products that would misinform and almost dupe the consumer into buying a mortgage so the lender could get paid as much as possible. But look at what happened when home prices started to decline. The product blew up in the consumer's faces. So what Congress did was said, hey, CFPB, we know that there's a law called RESPA. We know that there's a law called TILA. Now you're going to have to combine these two disclosures in order to make the mortgage process more transparent for the consumer.
All right, that sounds good. We're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be right back with Jobe Danganan to talk more about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB changes that are coming in October to all real estate transactions that include your standard loans like your FHA, your VA, and your conventional home financing loans. So we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.